Hi, I'm Zenna Duke.
And I'm Jane Dunawald.
And we're here today to share the first part of our 4-part series called Cornerstones of Creativity.
And the Cornerstones of Creativity came from all the work that we've done together on creative strength training. First the book, and then a lot of other projects that we've worked on as partners. And I think one of the things that we know for sure is that people are shut down from believing they're creative when they look at other people who they perceive other people as more creative. So then they think they're not creative at all.
Right. Yeah. We see all of these geniuses out there solving the world's biggest problems, building technology, bridges, artwork, whatever it is, and we think that they have something that we don't have or that we don't really even have access to.
Right. But in fact, we all have access to it. Because, as I say, we say air. Air's around you. You don't think about air, but you're breathing, and without it, you'd be nothing. You don't think about gravity, but gravity is a universal principle. And creativity is universally available to everybody. But I think what we have to do is we have to start thinking about it from two perspectives. We've got the version you were just talking about. I think of that now as commercial creativity. It's creativity that's driven by a public need or by a public problem, and it's all good. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. It's fabulous. That's how the world evolves. But then there's the aspect of creativity that we could call sacred creativity. And that's the creativity that's for ourselves that just makes life richer, more joyful.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to help people find.
Yes.
That's what we want to strengthen.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be pursuing a career as an artist or as a creative to access that creativity and like you said, use it to build a more joyful, fulfilling life for yourself.
Right, because it takes creativity to figure out how to deal with people sometimes.
Absolutely.
And you don't have an ingredient in the fridge that you need for a dinner for something you were going to make. You come up with some creative solution. Those are just really simple aspects of it. So if we go back to the 4 cornerstone words, which is, maybe it's a little trite, but I think it helps people remember to have a system. And the first word that we identified as being really important is curiosity. Curiosity is that spark that can just keep building and building until you're doing all kinds of things that you never thought were possible from a creative standpoint. But let's face it, people say, oh, you should just be more curious.
Right. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Right?
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think we are trying to outline some specific strategies that you can use, we can use to be more curious.
Right. Because strategies are a game plan. You have a word that you call, I don't remember what you call that right now, action steps. But that's the whole point, is that we want to take ideas. It's always better to take ideas that are floating up here in the ether and ground them to the earth somehow. And so one way that you can ground yourself when it comes to expanding your curiosity is to ask some questions or to adopt particular behaviors.
Yeah, I think we're all born curious, and we all kind of wonder about things in our environment or other people or what have you. But I think part of the skill that we want to develop here is to just become more aware of those questioning thoughts and maybe write them down or just hold on to a couple so that you can follow the thread into exploring more about that topic.
Right. So one of the strategies might be to remind yourself on a regular basis, and maybe keeping a little book or a little journal is a good idea. I know you keep one regularly.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the things we want to remind ourselves when it comes to the steps is that it's really, really good to be willing to be wrong or not to know something. And when you don't know something, to admit that you don't know it.
I think when you approach something with beginner's mind, which is a term used quite often these days, but I think it's still incredibly important, you don't have any expectations on yourself. You're not supposed to be good at it, so just jump in and try it.
Do it however you do it.
Right, and then it's amazing what can come from that.
Right.
Just jumping in and exploring something that you're curious about.
Yes, and not being afraid, well, no expectations. And beginner mind, I mean, that's a phrase that we keep using because it sums it up, doesn't it? And not being afraid to fail, not being afraid, not going either direction, staying in present time with it.
Right, yeah. So I think the activity we are going to jump into today is monoprinting. And I've never monoprinted. I know you have.
Right?
Some.
Not that much.
Yeah. So we're both kind of beginners here, but I've been curious about it for a long time. We've filmed tutorials on it for some other classes, and I'm excited to jump in and see what happens.
Great. And we picked it because whether you've done a lot of monoprinting or no monoprinting at all, it's pretty inexpensive to set it all up, and you could have some fun with it too. And once we get some monoprints made, then we'll start talking about where those could lead, which is the first step in taking yourself outside of yourself, really. Curiosity means wanting to know what's going on outside there. But then, interestingly enough, it turns back so you begin to learn some things about yourself.
Yes.
And that's part of the joy of it too. The better you know yourself, the more grounded, back to grounding, more grounded you are. So you ready to monoprint?
Yeah, let's go.
Great, let's set it up. Okay, you ready to begin?
Let's do this.
Okay, want me to show you how, or you just want to play?
I think you should show me how.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about what we've got here.
Okay.
For people who might not be familiar with the supplies. We've got 2 pieces of plexiglass, which were basically really cheap frames, like from a big box store.
Yeah, okay.
Out of a picture frame. And inexpensive tube acrylic paints, not oil. These go half price a lot of the time at various craft stores. So then you stock up. And then we've got an assortment of brushes, not anything really fabulous. These are inexpensive chip brushes. I've got some brushes here that are like for stenciling. And then I have a couple of, what the heck is that? That's, because you're just making marks and moving the paint around. Yeah. Okay. Then I have just a little white eraser. And this is a makeup
applicator.
Foreign to me, but yes, makeup applicator. And monoprinting works like this. Mono means 1. And what I'm going to do is squeeze some paint out. Okay, and I can do it a couple of ways. I can spread the paint around first and then add more paint, or I can put down more than one color and then spread it around. Okay? Acrylic paint dries pretty fast. That's cool. See, I love to mix the paint colors. And then I can take the end of a pencil, or that's why I've got the little makeup thing.
I see. Cool.
And I can take the eraser. I could actually use this to stamp, or I could use this to push paint around. And if I don't like what I have, I can paint it all out again. But I'm not going to do that now because it'll mush it all together and turn it into mush. And I have all my paper ready to go over here. So I tap it down. And then the big reveal.
Wow.
Cool, huh? So I can set that off to dry. And then I could make another one here, or I can see how it's mushing it. That's okay. That's kind of nice. Then I can come in. I also have a rag here so I can wipe my hand. I'm going to take this and make a bolder line. If I had bigger paper, I could get the
I love that.
I know, cool, huh? So our goal is to make as many of these as we can in, like, say, 10 minutes.
Okay.
So the reason I would put a timer on it is one thing about curiosity and creativity in general. I think sometimes we get shut down because we're busy thinking too much. So if you set the timer and you're just going, which you have to do with this paint anyway, or it'll dry and you won't be able to use it anymore.
Yeah.
You set the timer and you just make as many as you can for 5 minutes, or you make as many as you can for 10 or 30, whatever. But it keeps you moving, so you're not spending so much time thinking.
Right.
Now, I'm going to go get a couple of damp cloths, because one thing you could do, you could keep adding more paint and just keep building and building and never clean the plate. Or you can stop what you're doing and you can take a wet washcloth and just wipe the plate off.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So I'll get a couple of wet washcloths and then we'll have an option.
And then we're gonna set our timer.
Good plan.
Okay. Ready, set, go.
All right, go. Well, that 5 minutes was pretty fast.
That went by very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and look how much we produced.
So I noticed a couple things. First of all, I had this resistance in my head the first probably at least couple minutes of the 5, and it's the negative self-talk we all have, and it's so frustrating, and I think it's what stops us from pursuing our curiosity about things. I'm not going to be good at that. These are terrible. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think one thing, I don't know, this just occurred to me. If we had gone 10 minutes or 15 minutes, do you think the 2 minutes that you wasted on that would have dissolved away and you would have been able to get into it?
Even in the 5, by the end I was into it.
Okay.
And I was letting that go.
That's such a great lesson in sticking with something.
Yeah.
Until the negative self-talk.
And setting a time and like, I'm going to do this for this amount of time.
And I'm not going to quit
because
until
if
then.
I hadn't, I might have walked away.
Yeah.
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 So, and then I started thinking more about what else I was curious about, like mixing the colors to create new colors, or repeating different patterns and shapes, and then it was fun, and I was able to let the crappy ones go. So leading into the next video in this series, the next cornerstone is clarity. And we've been talking about how doing an activity like this brings up all these thoughts and things to play around with, and really makes us look at what we like and what we don't like and why.
And so that we get clearer about our preferences.
Right. And then deciding, it's okay if I don't like that,
Yeah.
and you do.
Well,
you know,
it's fine, because you can look at it and say that's bad, but we confuse that's bad with I'm bad.
Yeah.
And that's not, so anybody who's making things is making some things they don't like, but they confuse it with taking it personally.
Right.
And it's not personal, it's impersonal. Look how many we made. Think if we did this for an hour, how many we would have here. And there'd be a lot that we wouldn't like.
Yeah.
And then we'd figure out how to recycle them. But that's one of the things that I think builds the curiosity aspect of this, is that, for example, you like the colors in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's basically red, violet, and lime green, complementary.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing you could do is pick the one you like, something about it, like maybe I like the circles here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, when you go out into the world, I'm going to start looking for that color combination other places.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you think those two colors in the world somewhere, you can't even imagine where you would see it, but you will.
Yeah.
And I'll see circles, I know that for a fact. But that's one thing that any kind of exercise like this does. It heightens your awareness.
Yes.
So that then you start noticing things around you that were always there, but you see them in a new context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, can I go one step further?
Sure.
You could get your phone and you could start taking pictures of the things that have those two colors in them.
Mm-hmm.
And you could keep a record of it.
Yeah.
And then that expands what we call sometimes the creative eye.
Right, yes.
So you're beginning to see the world more creatively just in that one simple experience that you're having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that'll ripple out and touch something else. Mm-hmm. So if you enjoyed this video today, we hope you'll tune in for the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we are going to put together a PDF that will outline the basic points of the talk that we've shared with you today.
So consider joining us online, and we hope to see you for part 2 in the series, Clarity.
Look at the world through your creative eye.